Hello and welcome back to Podcast with a K. You're listening to Wex 90.1 FM. This is Podcast with a K and I'm your host Karla with a K, joined here tonight on this fine Sunday evening by returning guest McKenna Rowe, all the way from Washington. Mac, you gotta stay close to your mic. There's only so loud I can bump you.
I'm sorry, is this better?
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay.
Welcome back. I am so happy to have you here. As I've said before, if you ever have something that you want to talk about and you know that I have this show, please let me know and let's talk about it on air because I live for this stuff. And here we are. That goes for anyone that's listening from Eastern as well. If you know me and you know the show, hit me up. If you don't know me and you know the show, also hit me up. If you don't know me at all and you don't know the show at all and this is your first time hearing about it, also hit me up. Basically, I like conversation. Come have one with me.
They're open.
DMs are open. But you just heard a song from Dawn FM by The Weeknd, which I thought was very fitting for our return to the podcast series finale, or I guess I should say the introduction to it all. Anyway, Dawn FM on Wex FM. Let's go, right? All right, Mac. In Dawn FM, we had songs. We had a listening party to the entire album, and we had favorites. This was number 2. Number 1 was Less Than Zero. Number 2 was this one. Such a good song. This was number 2, Gasoline, and our number 3 was a little bit controversial because no one else seemed to have it as their number 3. We liked Don't Break My Heart.
We did. I heard a lot of people really liked Best Friends, which was like also good. It's just Don't Break My Heart I felt was different than the other songs in the album. Like our top 3 were different from everything else because the other ones were good, but they didn't stand out.
We seem to like the ones that were different from the typical like synth wave R&B that he does.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean the album as a whole, we all 3 really liked, and by we all 3 I mean Mac, myself, and Leo, who if you're listening to the show you've heard of but you haven't met yet.
Come on the show, Leo. Don't be afraid.
My goal is to have Leo agree to be a guest on the show all the way from Brazil.
He's talking in chat right now, so I don't know.
He is in chat.
Be here.
If you would like to have say in the show, you can always follow the podcast on Twitter at podcast by K, PODKASTXK, or tune in live on Twitch for a behind the scenes look at twitch.tv/KarlyGirl, and that's KarlyGiirl. But we're not here for self promo. We're here to talk about the important things like the end of the world.
Yes.
So this was inspired by a little bit of a lot of things. All right. First up was, of course, the song you just heard had a line in it that mentions the apocalypse, kind of in passing. Like, it's not a major line in the song. It's more so like, wow, everything is great. Pour the gasoline, set me on fire. We're all dying. I'm in love.
Yeah.
That's kind of the whole album.
Which, honestly, what a vibe. Some of it's passive aggressive. One of the songs I heard was about Angelina Jolie, and then in the middle he's like, ooh, drugs and death and end of the world. And then he's back to being like, love. Am I right, guy?
What more can you wish for, honestly, from Abel, right?
I say nothing.
I was very happy with the album. As like I said, we're the rest of us. We will be missing him at this year's Super Bowl, as if we cared about sports, really. But in general, we will miss The Weeknd. I'm excited for this year. It seems to be a good lineup. But we keep getting sidetracked, and I want to talk about the end of the world. So, also relevant to Mac and I was the movie Don't Look Up on Netflix.
It's a good movie. I know it's controversial, and I know there's a lot of different interpretations that people gathered from it, but overall, I really liked it.
Yeah, I was into it. Like, I've always said that I find content that's preachy to not be the most entertaining. However, I enjoyed this one for the fact that it was satire. I live for satire. You know Saturday Night Live is my favorite show. I live for comedy specials. Like, if you can make a critique and like make someone laugh, they'll be thinking about the joke while also getting the message. Maybe not afterwards, right? They're like, hey, they were talking about me. But when you laugh, that's not what you're worried about. You're just like, yo, sick burn, dude.
Yeah, that was a sick burn, but then you're also like, oh shoot, this is so political. When it shouldn't be. The issue shouldn't be political, but it is, and I think that's why people got so offended by the movie.
It's just unfortunate, I think, that we've politicized science. I mean, it's not like it hasn't always been, but I think before it was more so just like in the presentation of facts. Like, I will only tell you this because it backs my agenda. Now it's like, I will tell you everything only for the sake of backing my agenda. Like, before it was kind of like they would omit things if it didn't line up. Now they will tell you things and people will be like, all right, well, I like this fact and the rest of the stuff, like, it's true, but that's what they believe. And it's like, yeah, bro, that's what everyone believes. It's like if you're telling me, like, for example, did you know that humans convert oxygen into carbon dioxide? Yo, these like kids are crazy. That's so evil. And it's so like, evil. Dude, like everyone does that. That's called breathing. So it's the same facts presented in a different way, right? To like kind of make a point.
Yeah. I don't know, because obviously, I also think it's a generational thing, because I obviously talked to my parents about this, and I told you guys, they thought it was the dumbest movie that they've ever seen in their entire life. They didn't understand any of it. They didn't think it was about climate change at all, because they were like, there was no mention of that. And they understood the political aspect and that, like trashing the presidents and that kind of thing, but they didn't pick up anything else on it. And even when I tried to explain, they obviously didn't understand. And we've heard other people who think it's like very much about COVID and like vaccination status, and like there's a bunch of different ways that it has gone down. And I think it's almost a generational thing.
All right, well, so let's backtrack and explain what Don't Look Up was about to begin with. Don't Look Up was a movie about a scientist at a grad school, or teaching a grad school program. Yeah. And he's asking someone to like determine the velocity or the distance or something of the nature. And they discover a meteor that is coming towards Earth and is getting ready to crash. And when it crashes, it'll be like a world-ending event because it's massive, right? And so it's a massive fight, first of all, to get Washington to even listen. Then to get Washington to take them seriously. And Washington only takes them seriously once they leak it to the press. And so you think, finally, they're going to do something about it. They've got this all figured out. They've got the military, like, Space Force, which, again, there are a lot of references to Trump's presidency in this movie. But they've got, like, a whole, like, space fleet, like, ready to go blow this meteor up. And then the rich, like, tech guy, which is kind of our Elon Musk, Bezos, Zuckerberg type figure. Just like a rich, shy guy that's in tech, right? He has some app that like can predict how you're even gonna die type thing because they have all your information. He's like, wait, the meteor we've discovered is like laden with like gold and diamonds and like very like overtly just like we could make money off of this. So he makes these space drones that are supposed to go and basically mine the meteor before it hits Earth. And in doing so, of course, they decide to no longer blow it up. And so, of course, the meteor strikes because they failed to detain it. Everyone dies, and the president... sorry, spoilers. You should watch it, though. The president and the tech guy and, like, a team of 200, I think, government officials and rich people from the planet take a rocket ship to another planet, and on this planet... The president had asked, how am I going to die? And he's like, you're going to be eaten by something called a brontorok. She's like, what's a brontorok? I don't know. So they land on the planet. She gets eaten by some weird lizard dinosaur looking thing. And everyone's like, oh my God, what just happened? And the tech guy's like, I think that's called a brontorok. But like so basically in it, Ariana Grande has a song for some reason in which she's in
that movie a lot.
Yeah. And so she's got a line where she's like, listen to the scientists. No swearing because we're on the air. But, like, the whole song's just kind of like, just look up. You don't have to believe the news. You don't have to believe the scientists. Literally look up and you will see the comet, dude. And so there's the opposition, which is, don't look up. And they're, like, chanting. They're having rallies about don't look up until finally they look up and they see the meteor. And in the background, Ariana Grande is singing her song in which she's like, just listen to the scientists. And so like it's very direct attacks, and there's a part in it where they directly quote Trump, I believe, right?
So, like, it was very much against him, and I know a lot of the celebrities in that movie have been very openly against him. So, I'm not surprised. Like, they could have left that part out, but also because it is about climate change, Trump was a very big person in not believing in it or not taking action in it. So, I kind of don't blame them.
I think that it was an interesting critique because it was so overt. Usually, when you see stuff like this, it's not as direct. And I mean, it's not like you can pin this all on one guy. I mean, I've been very vocal about my distaste, if not hatred, for Trump and his entire team. I'll say that to anyone about anyone. I'll have the conversation with you. I'll discuss why. You can tell me why you do or don't like him. But my decision has been that I do not like the man, right? Nothing he did benefited me. So, like, I just have that to back my arguments. And so for me, this movie was just kind of like, I noticed all of the little, like, quips and stuff. But then, like you said, your parents, like, it went over their head. And one of our friends, I'm not dropping names or anything because, privacy, etc. But no, one of our friends told us that she knew somebody who thought that the movie was supposed to be critique on people who were pro-vax and pro-mask in terms of COVID. We had drawn a parallel to COVID, but we thought it was about the anti-vaxxers, the anti-maskers, people saying that taking precautions was pointless. However, it was very interesting to know that somebody had the exact opposite view of the movie.
Yeah, it's, like I said, it's kind of a generational thing because the person who said that was a little older than us. And I know you and I are technically two different generations, but like I feel like millennials and Gen Zs kind of agree on a lot of things where like the difference between baby boomers and millennials is huge. And so the opinions between those groups is insane to me because it's like, how can you go from point A to point B? And I could see it. It's just I never interpreted it that way.
Yeah, it's like you can make the argument for whatever side, right? But I think the what it comes down to is what we mentioned at the beginning, in which like the facts are out there. It's just in how you're wording it and what you're trying to support with what you're saying, because it's there's some stuff that is just it's undeniable. So for example, right now I just said this is what happens when we breathe. Sure, maybe 50 years into the future, right? If not 500, 5 million if we're still alive then. We'll figure out that we weren't doing anything with oxygen or carbon dioxide at all. We had it wrong. We were measuring the wrong things. Crazy. But we're not there. We're in the here and in the now, and the most that we can do is continue research and act based off of what we know. And I feel like that applies to pretty much every and any situation, which is kind of what Don't Look Up was saying, because they were like, well, what if it doesn't crash? What if it doesn't strike? What if it doesn't kill us all? Well, right now it looks like it's going to strike and kill us all, so let's do something about that. Like, let's do something about what we can control.
Because obviously technology is going to change over time. Like, we can't even fully comprehend how old some of the rocks are on Earth. Like, we don't have a commitment for that. But we are smart enough to know how old some rocks are, and we are smart enough to know what some things will cause based on history and everything else. And so we can change stuff now, or we know what influences things now, and that might be completely different in the future. And we might look stupid. Because, like, the Big Bang, obviously how they handled their health crisis is very different than how we handle ours. But they didn't back then.
Yeah, and on that topic, just to further it and kind of touch back a little on generational things, I'm in a space class because I only really needed to do my senior class, but in order to be a full-time student, for whatever reason, I added more classes. So I'm doing I'm a full-time student still, but I decided I'll take a few of the classes that I didn't get to take if I can put them towards something cool. If not, I still wanted to learn this. So I'm in a space class, long story short. And in the space class, my professor was talking about how on Earth, things move in cycles. And so right now we're in a period that, we know as global warming, which is what the movie was alluding to. However, he was saying is that it goes in cycles in which things freeze and melt and freeze and melt. And currently there is more ice than ever on Earth. Those of us who are intellectuals, me, a 20-something-year-old who watched the day after tomorrow, not my professor who has studied for years and years and years, right? But my mind immediately goes to the day after tomorrow, in which, because of the global warming, there is ice, but the melting of it is what causes everything to first, eventually freeze over, which is the cycle we're heading towards. Because as it moves down to climates that are hotter, like, sure, it's cold enough to melt up there, but it's still cold enough to cool down here. So it'll eventually lead to another freezing cycle. And so hearing this from someone who studies the science and bases on the science and is telling us that, like, we're kind of sensationalizing an issue, like it was inevitable anyway. I'm like, but everything that I've always been taught is that sure, it is a cycle and it is going to happen, but we're exacerbating the problem. You know, we're speeding it up. We're making it happen sooner rather than later.
So when I was a journalist, member of those days, I actually interviewed a scientist, and the easiest way to explain it, and this is an experiment you might have done, in elementary school or whatever, but if you have a cup of ice water, obviously you know the ice is melting, but the temperature of that water is going to stay the same even as the ice is melting, but you know heat is going into that ice to make it melt, even though you don't see the temperature change yet, but you can see the ice melting. Eventually, all of the ice is going to melt, and then all of the water is going to heat up. And that's essentially what's happening right now. We know the ice is melting. Yeah, our outside temperatures haven't changed that much, and it's only going to change by 1 or 2 degrees. But how much energy and heat that's going to take to get the whole world to change that much is what's causing the issue.
So I want to point back to a comment from chat. Lucian mentions that as someone who's played a lot of the Fallout games, she wonders what's going to actually cause the end of the world. And I want to pose the question to you. Do you think it'll be global warming or something else? And as a side note, do you think we will see the end of the world?
So I think we inherently are causing climate change. Obviously, it's happening on its own. But you and I are talking from a literal country away. Like, we are on opposite sides of America right now. We are using so much technology to do this. We would have to go back to our technology usage of the 1960s to reverse what we are currently doing to the planet right now, which obviously is never going to happen. So I think part of it could be greed, because people obviously are not going to give that up to stay alive, But we are going to do something. And our generation's only seeing effects of it. I don't think the world is going to end in our generation. I think that's going to be like my nephews or maybe their kids. But we are seeing, issues with food supply and water supply, and issues with a lot of animals already who are going extinct or who are migrating to really weird places because our weather patterns have been so weird. Like, we're going to see a hard part of it, but I don't think we'll see the end of it.
I would love to agree that we won't see the end of it. Obviously not with everything else. That all sucks, dude. Like, why are we in an apocalypse situation? There haven't even been that many generations on Earth yet. Like, thinking about, like, the grand scheme of things, right? But I don't know when I started kind of, like, those moments where, like, everything is fine and dandy. You had a great day. You're in bed. You're right at the edge of sleep, right? And all of a sudden you're like, I'm going to die soon. Like, you just kind of are faced with your own mortality. I've been having a lot of those moments recently. And of course, it's because there's so much news, there's so much media. I'm not like, of course, I personally would never villainize the fact that we have so much information thrown at us consistently, because I'm an inherently, like, curious person. I love knowing everything about everything forever. Tell me it all. In the words of Bo Burnham, I just want a little bit of everything all of the time. But I kind of fear that towards the end of our lives, we will see the beginning of the end, if not the end. I don't know if it'll be global warming. I kind of think it'd be more cool to see a meteor. It's just, I want to know what the dinosaurs saw, man, or a volcano. My ideal death is by volcano. I've said this to some people and everyone tells me that I'm crazy. I want to touch lava at least once, and I think you can only touch it once, right?
I feel like it would feel like a squishy marshmallow, but like a really hot one, but I want to confirm that.
You know when you touch a stove and your brain kind of forgets what hot and cold is, it just feels pain? But before that, you kind of just feel like the spark of, like, oh, a new feeling. That's what I think lava is like. You, like, kind of, you're like, oh, a new feeling, and then you die. So I think volcano would be a sick way to
movie where
die.
this guy melted in the lava. Like he was just standing there and then he starts to melt. And I'm like, that'd be kind of cool. You'd be like a little snowman, but it's
Well,
lava
no,
and human.
I don't want to melt. I just think like quick, painless, but at least you had the experience of lava. That way, if there is an afterlife, hopefully there's an afterlife. I want there to be an afterlife. I am historically a Catholic that believes in an afterlife, but I want that to be an experience that I achieve only after having touched lava.
You can only experience afterlife if you've touched lava. Confirmed.
That's actually the
No
way.
religion.
These are the secrets that the Pope won't tell you. Please don't smite me. I would also like to be the Pope someday. This is a weird tangent. Anyway, Lucian says that the advancements in technology will help slow it, but the ignorant will attempt to keep it from really being reversed. Non-fossil fuel steel is very promising. I won't pretend to know about that, but that does seem intriguing.
So basically what's happening is mining obviously is very controversial because it does cause a lot of harm. We can't ever stop mining because a lot of the stuff that is on our cell phones, computers, everything you have to mine for. So it's finding more ethical ways to get things that we already have. So that is like the no fossil fuel thing. So that's no, oils or whatever to create product, which is really cool. It's super swaggy. I really like it, but I don't know if it's like a long-term solution by any means, but I think it's cool that we're trying to figure it out.
Yeah, again, it's kind of just about doing things for what you know and what you can do something about. Like maybe switching from plastic straws to paper straws won't save every turtle on the planet, but I will have contributed a little less to that mountain. It's not my responsibility, of course, to reverse all of this. I'm not the corporations that pump out millions and millions and millions of pounds of waste and pollution and whatever, right? Like, this is very much a group project that one person is, like, trying to get credit for. However, like, even if it's, like, the smallest of impacts, even if it's I pick up a wrapper that I saw on the street, or, like, even if it's using the, like, biodegradable beeswax wraps instead of saran wrap, like, at least I did something. I did what I could, and I have that on my conscience. Of course, that leads me to the whole argument about why biodegradable, sustainable supplies are more expensive and why it's on purpose and why I disagree that this is the way to do things, because it makes the poor take the fall because basically you can't afford to live a green life. But that's an entirely different topic. You guys, I think, hear me rant a lot about money and economics for someone that doesn't know the terms necessary to argue about money and economics.
It's a lot. Obviously, I am a psych and criminal justice major. The environment has literally nothing to do with the career I want to go into. However, I am on my student government in the environmental sustainability section. I'm one of the higher ups in that club. I obviously have lots of plants everywhere. I garden, I do all that stuff. Because you're right, we aren't going to make a difference. Jeff Bezos, like all of those guys are the ones that are doing the most damage. They're going to have to do something. However, it's not fair for us to say we can't do anything because it's their fault, because you're still contributing to it. Like going on airplanes, throwing away trash, using the type of heating that you use. All of that stuff is something that you are personally doing that is personally affecting the planet. And yeah, you're going to use a straw every once in a while, whatever. But if you cut back from using 75 straws, and if you stop using plastic baggies, and if you use your reusable grocery bags or whatever, you help significantly. And even though it's really expensive to start off with, which is why poor communities cannot start it, because it is very expensive to get into this lifestyle. I am going to save money over time, but people don't have that privilege because everyone's living paycheck to paycheck, and the government doesn't care. But then they're like, man, you guys are using plastic. And I'm like, people don't have a choice sometimes.
My thing is, dog, you made the plastic. You literally made the plastic that I'm using. Stop making plastic then.
Yeah, I can do that. And here in Washington, we just had our plastic bag banned. So you do not get plastic bags. You have to pay for them. And even the ones you get are reusable, which is really nice.
Same in Connecticut. It happened like right before the pandemic, so they had to bring back plastic bags for charging. But at this point, Walmart has done what you said. Like they're like the thick, more durable, reusable plastic bags.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, it's something, but I mean, you guys are the ones in power. You guys are the ones with the money. You guys dictate what we use. You could be doing more, but you're not, and that trickles down and makes us feel bad about it.
When it's not our fault, it's like my school, I'll call them out, Washington State University, their retirement funds for our teachers are based in fossil fuels, so oil and all that stuff. We are currently trying to get them to not do that. There's just not a good alternative sustainably that gives you the same money back as financing in something that's not good for the environment. And so that's going to be really hard. It's not going to be something that is going to get done before I graduate. I know that for sure. But I'm like, why are colleges, and colleges are huge and big on impacts or whatever, like, why are they putting this on the students to figure out and fight them on this when they easily could just be like, oh yeah, it's kind of not good. We could just not do that.
Right. It's kind of like whenever you're like, oh man, why did my kid rip up the sofa with pliers? Did you consider not giving your kid pliers to begin with? Or letting your kid near the sofa?
Teaching them a better way to use pliers instead of on the sofa.
Like, bro, teach your kid to fix your broken jewelry with pliers. Teach them, like, electrical engineering. Do something that's not destroy my couch.
If someone is ripping up a sofa, I don't think they're going to be emotionally and mentally ready to learn electrical engineering.
They could be if you would teach them how to do that instead of just letting them run wild on the sofa.
Let them go rampant.
And I mean this as in, like, from the start, like, no one really needs calculus unless you're specifying in it. No one really needs a lot of the stuff that's in our curriculum where we were all supposed to just go to school and then be farmers or factory workers or go to the war. Like, redo everything, teach people how to live this life, how to make a product, how to be inventors. That's what we need now. That's, like, we need people who, I guess you do need calculus to be an inventor. Whatever. Like, replace the useless things with useful things, right? How to be smart with your money, how to use your money effectively, how to make a product, how to use products, like, how to cook, how to, like, grow something. Even, that's weird to me that, like, our school system is still set up for that. And yet, like, I only know how to grow strawberries because one time I was walking around downtown and the guy at the farm store was, like, watching me, like, fawn over these strawberries that were outside, and I'm like, I've never seen strawberries outside of a strawberry patch. And he's like, I'm, like, transplanting this leaf. Do you want a little cluster? And so I took a little cluster, and then I grew an entire strawberry patch outside, like, in my, like, middle of nowhere town, like, beside the train tracks, like I'm not supposed to be growing strawberries there, but they grew a strawberry patch, and, like, that was cool. And I was like, dude, if I want strawberries, I just go outside and grab one. That's crazy. And you can do that with so much. And of course, farming and having a ranch and stuff also comes with its own issues because you need to clear land. Like, there's no way to live fully ethically, but if you, like, want to do something, you can, right? Like, you can grow your own food. You don't need to clear a bunch of, like, land. Like, if you have a garden, that's enough to, like, do something, right? Because Lucian mentioned also earlier, seasonal food growing is important because it helps reduce your carbon footprint. For example, having avocado toast in New York in the winter doesn't necessarily help, which is true because, like I said, in order to grow avocados out of season, you need to, like, put in resources for that space. But if you know how to do that on your own, by yourself, you don't need to, like, do all of this crazy stuff, right? And of course, this is, like, if you have the land for it, you don't need to seek out those things.
Yeah.
Do I make sense? I feel like I'm rambling now.
No. It makes sense because that's why I got into gardening, because I, through actually doing it, learned what was in season and when. I saved resources because I'm not getting the vegetables or something from a grocery store, which obviously I had to travel pretty far to get there. I mean, for my own garden, I know when things are in season. I know when it's going to be most ethical to eat it. And being vegan is really hard. That is not something I can do. But eating in season is something that you can easily do, or save stuff or whatever. Like, I have 5-gallon bags of tomatoes in my freezer right now that I grew over the summer to make salsas and pasta sauces and whatever else. So I'm like, that's resources that the environment saved, and I think that's so cool. But, like, you, how excited you were about your strawberries, it's so cool to grow things yourself because you're like, I did the thing up and now I can eat it, and it's so good.
It's like I did a thing, dude. It might not save the world, but, like, at least I got a strawberry out of it, and, like, I made some bees happy. Great. Dude, my turtle was happy. The bees outside were happy. There was even, like, snails in the garden. Like, I did a little thing for my little, like, 5x2 square patch, or square, rectangle, whatever.
It matters because that's another thing is I obviously was very scared of bugs. I hate wasps and bees now, but I didn't like them because they sting. Um, and when I started working at a plant nursery, I realized they don't bother you really, and that they do a lot for your plants. And I would see frogs, I would see mice, I would see all these really cool animals that I used to think were really gross. And I'm like, you guys are just trying to live in your little flower patches, and I like that, and I think it's so cute, and so I want to give back and make that happen for other living creatures and stuff. Because I'm like, we know the consequences, we know the world's going to end. Little bee boy might not, so I want him to be happy while he's here.
Exactly. Do it for little B-boy, you guys heard.
Do it for little bee boy.
That's why B-movie, and I hate to give credit to B-movie because it is such a dumb movie, but that's why B-movie was also, like, significant, because at first, it's that, like, point of overcorrecting to the point where what you're doing is harming things more than it's helping, because we have kind of taken over the world in a way that works for us, right? So it's not like you can be like, taking bees' honey is bad, give it all back. What are they going to do with it, bro? We need them to pollinate. We need them to produce more honey. So it's like, do your part to, like, help the bees. You can give them flowers. You can do that. But you can't be like, yo, cut off bees altogether. Bees are off limits. It's too late for that. We've already made bees on limit.
Them, but you can make them happier. You can give them fruits and flowers and vegetables and all this other stuff to live in. And, like, I have a huge cherry tree, and when they all start to decompose, my whole backyard is filled with wasps, the bane of my existence. But I'm like, you're just trying to eat a little cherry. And I respect that. I'll let you do it. It's not like I'm going to eat a decomposing cherry. So, like, what's the harm in it?
You're right, and I hate that because I hate wasps, and I have one fear, and it is wasps. I've never been stung. I'm not allergic as far as I know, but I don't want to be stung, and I do not want to find out if I am allergic, so I hate them. And they're evil because if they sting you, they will tell the others to also come and bother you. They're so mean.
So mean. And I used to hate spiders, but spiders actually do a lot for plants as well. And I had one named Frank. He was, like, this big. And he lived in my house over the summer because obviously I have a whole bunch of plants over my house. So I was like, you're going to eat all the bad bugs. And I love Frank so much. Frank, I think, died. I don't know where he went. I only saw him for like a month. But he did his duty. And we were talking. He just stayed in the little corner of my ceiling. And it was a great time.
Do it for Frank. All right. I did want to ask you something before we got sidetracked into A Bug's Life, Mac. Yes. On the topic of the apocalypse, my brunch time conversation, so this is, yes, the conversation that I was having on a Sunday at brunch, took the turn of, which fit in really nicely to today's podcast theme anyway, which is, the end of the world, because we're talking about the end of the podcast. So let's talk about the end of things this season, yes? Yes, I have decided on the spot right now. Anyway, the question that I wanted to ask you was, do you think that because of all this talk about going to another planet, trying to find alternative solutions in case we do see the end of the Earth, do you think that the reason that we haven't encountered other life in the universe is because we are the first to have evolved to this point of communication and cognitive thought? Or do you think we are the last remaining species of our kind? Like, do you think that we are the beginning of what humans will be? Or do you think we are the end in a long timeline of, like, other humanoid beings extraterrestrially?
So this is complicated because sometimes people are religious. People can be religious. And how I know, how the Bible starts and stuff is going to be very different from how science says that people started and that kind of thing. I'm personally not religious, so I believe in the science portion of things because at least we're able to prove that right now, and we're not quite able to prove religion yet. So until that happens, I'm just kind of vibing. But I know they said, like, Mars used to hold water and stuff, which is obviously important for living organisms, as Earth proved. So it's very possible that Mars went through a whole climate change cycle of everything froze over and then all of the water evaporated and overheated, and now we're here where we are. But I like to think the universe is forever in cycles because it's huge. The fact that they think space is infinite is genuinely scary because you can't even picture that. which is insane to me. Because I'm like, hey, we don't know that we're the only living things. Just no one else could be that technological. There could be a whole planet of just ants. Obviously, ants are going to try to build spaceships or anything. Like, we don't know anything. So all possibilities are open. We could be the last living thing. We could coexisting with ant planets. We don't know.
Why would you say that, bro? The ants kill my strawberries. I don't want an ant planet.
Well, I'm sorry, Bestie, but there might be one. So we can't say that we're the only living things or whatever, but we can say we know our planet is dying, and as of right now, we know we're the only living things. So how is that going to influence the future in our little solar system compared to the rest of outer space?
So, yes, I agree with you partially. But I wanted to point out that the friends I was having this conversation with, one of them said that they think that we are the first because we cannot be peak evolution. I was like, oh, well, I wish now that I thought of it that way, because my original train of thought was like, because there's ice on Mars, I think, like you said, that it already went through this cycle in which everything's over, which is why Mars could be habitable. However, because of its position in the sun, its lack of an atmosphere, I think that it already went through this cycle because of the ozone layer on Earth. So I think that we are beginning to see that cycle run its course. So my very sad doomsday interpretation is that the reason we haven't had contact with anyone else in the universe is because we're the end of it. In this scenario, ideally, like you said, because it's infinite, I think that there's other planets, other beings, other creatures, other things. We haven't found out how to speak to them yet, right? Because they're not doing this through radio or Facebook, right? Maybe they use antennas that reach out and put out sonar pulses that we just haven't discovered how to read yet. But I would like to think that there's more stuff out there in different shapes and forms. Hopefully not an ant planet. But in the scenario of whether we are the beginning or the end, I was like, I think we're the end. She was like, I think we might be the beginning, though. And then the other one was like, it's 10:30. It's too early for this conversation.
That's very fair. This was a very stupid Tumblr post, but what you just reminded me of it. It basically said, obviously light years, they're very long. So it said that in some planets, if they're that far away, they could still be seeing dinosaurs right now. So they might not know that people are on the planet. They might think that we're still dinosaurs, or that plants are just now starting to grow or whatever else. I'm like, that's true, because it's not like we're seeing anybody or anything or any ants or whatever else. We're just vibing on our own little planet, doing our own little stupid human things because humans created a society and said this is important, even though it's not. And now we're here.
We live in a society, Mack, and you're telling me it's not important? Are you telling me my life isn't important?
Charlie, I'm saying that the Earth itself is literally trying to freeze over, and you and I are on a cute little podcast on a cute little Sunday night, about to wake up for our cute little school university tomorrow to get a cute little stupid degree to talk about cute little things that humans made.
How dare you call anything that I do cute? I'm tough.
Okay.
Don't laugh at me. That's very fair. I don't know how to counteract this. I feel like that makes this entire thing pointless, and I should just shut down everything right now and go outside and scream into the street.
So it's not pointless. The way I think about it is people should do what makes them happy, because it is stupid. The Earth is Earth. The Earth do Earth things like volcano and earthquake. Humans are the ones who said you need to be at school at 8 a.m. You need to get a job. You need to get internships. You need to do all these things. So that's not what Earth said. So I'm like, that's why I hate when people say, oh, I can't do this, I can't even try. And I'm like, what's the consequence? You're going to be here for 80 years. You're just stupid little human things. Do what you want while you can, and then when you die, and hopefully you had a good life. Don't do drugs, though.
Yeah.
Please don't listen to that and do drugs.
Ideally, do not do drugs. Yes, I agree. On my mind... to my mind comes a lyric of a song that I used to like by a band that no longer goes by their name. What am I saying? There was a song by a band called Everfound. Oh, I wonder if that's why they're on my mind. Sorry, I'm like thinking out loud. The lyric that I am thinking of is "I can't be living." No, yeah, I can't be living just to finally die. Um, Everfound is now known as Saint Nomad. I originally discovered them at Winter Jam. They're on my mind because Winter Jam is in North Carolina right now. That's my train of thought. Anyway, Saint Nomad, fantastic band, new sound, not necessarily Christian anymore. Now they just kind of sing about whatever. Very cool, like indie, uh, electro pop type feels. Anyway, we can't be leaving just to finally die. Stuck with me as a line because I agree. And on the topic of dumb Tumblr post, I saw one that said, I wasn't put on this earth for a 9 to 5 job. I was put here to take naps and eat berries. And I have never resonated with something more. I hate 9 to 5s. I don't nap, but I do love berries.
Berries are great. And I think that was what was really nice when you and I were on winter break. Obviously, everyone else was snowed in and stuff, so they were all on Discord around the same time that we were. And it was so nice not having any commitments except for just coming on here and watching movies and playing Sims and ordering my stupid little DoorDash and whatever else and making cookies. I was like, that was genuinely enjoyable because there wasn't the stress of what other people are putting on us to do. It was just us simply existing and doing our little cute things. And I was like, that was so much fun, and I really wish that could have lasted longer than it did.
Yeah, this has been. Are you graduating this spring?
I graduate next spring.
Next spring. You've still got another year.
Early.
So I graduate this spring, and it's made me, of course, reflect on the last 4 years because whenever I was in high school, I did a dual enrollment program, got 2 associates out of it because I thought I had to do the smart thing, right? Like, do what's going to make me money. How else to make money than to be good at everything? So because I am technically good at everything that I attempted to do, I did get my degrees. I didn't use them. I didn't do anything. I didn't even go to school for another 3 years afterwards because of things outside of my control. And so I was very bitter about, like, what was the point of doing everything right for 12 years only for none of it to matter, right? And so then I got the scholarship. Now I'm here. And I was like, this time it's going to be different. I'm going to study what I want to study. And so I went into what I'm doing now, new media studies. I did a little art, did a little computer stuff, did a little radio stuff, did a little here, did a little there. And it was cool and it was fun. But once again, I was picking up everything and putting it on my plate. And then I'd go home for break, and then I'd go to work at a restaurant or like for somebody else. Basically just like anyone who was like, yo, you want money? Do a task. And I was like, sick, very cool. I like that. And so now towards the end of it, of course, the pandemic shut a lot down. And at first I was like, bro, I'm losing so much. Like, I'm losing time. I'm like, I'm going to fall behind again. And in that, I realized I had lost track of my goal, which was to not do things the exact same way I'd been doing it forever, because what was the point of it, right? Anything could stop me from progressing from this point. And so this year, it started last year, but this year, like, I'm forcing myself to let go of things a little bit, which is why, like I said, now I'm in a space class. Space class has nothing to do with communications. Yet here I am learning about light years and carbon dioxide.
Love
But
carbon
like,
dioxide.
it's fun and it's cool and I like that. And I'm in a music class because like these are things that I picked up as hobbies, kind of like you with like the like ecological things. Like, it's not what you're studying, it's kind of like just a thing you're interested in, so you're doing it. But like you said, for break, like this year, I've like when I was home for winter break, for example, I was like, if I don't get a response within X amount of time, I will not be waitressing. The work that I will do will be artistic because I haven't gotten to do art in a while because I've been grinding for other stuff. And art was always meant to be a hobby, not a job. But, you know, I found a way to monetize it in a way that worked for me. And so that's what I did. So there was days when I was painting all day and getting paid for it, which was phenomenal. And there was days when all we did was watch movies, literally from like about noon to midnight, movies all day. And that's how we ended up watching Don't Look Up, which was great because, like you said, some of us were snowed in, some of us couldn't go to work, some of us were working from home. Everyone just kind of had like about a week where like the universe lined up for all of us to have nothing to do. And we spent it deliberately doing nothing. Like, no one felt the need to be productive because even if you wanted to, you couldn't. And it was glorious.
It was so much fun. And I feel like most of the people who watch this are kind of around our ages or whatever. But college is obviously there so you can get a degree. But also, this is kind of the last stage of your life where you get stupid little summer breaks and spring breaks, and where you can go out and party till 4 a.m. or whatever. So I'm like, yes, college is important, but it's also worth making memories with all of your favorite friends because you don't know how long they're going to be in your life. Everyone's life path goes so drastically different. And it's nice to just do things and have a little, like, yeah, a 10-point assignment that you miss is not going to change your life, but having a memorable night with your friends is something that's going to be worth it. And so I'm like, college is important. However, you don't have to follow all the rules.
The Mac that I met and the Mac that I knew even last year would not have said that, and I'm kind of like really shook that you just said that like live on air for whoever's listening to hear,
I
because
know.
you would literally tell us at like, I don't know, 3 p.m. your time, not even our time, because Mac is 3 hours behind. Like 3 p.m. your time. Dude, I've got to go now. I have homework to do. We're like, Mac, it's 3 in the afternoon. You said you were gonna go to sleep at midnight. Yeah, I have so much to do. Dude, what?
That's
And all
true.
of us were shook.
So I prioritize school a lot because my parents were like, you need to do school because my dad never went to school. And then also my dad was diagnosed with cancer. So I was like, I am desperately depending on the scholarships that I can get and keep because if he dies while I'm pursuing my education, that all is going to go from nothing is on me to everything is on me. And I was so terrified that I was going to lose the scholarships or whatever that were keeping me here. Kevin's still kicking. I only have a year left, so I'm not too worried about that anymore. I've
Shouts out
got this
Kevin.
adult thing figured out. I've lived on my own for over a year now. I obviously my office is way cuter than it used to be. Um, but I don't know. I appreciate my friends a lot more. And I know 90% of them are not going to be in my life once we all graduate or whatever else. But I really enjoy them now. And I really enjoy all the stupid stuff that we do. And I value people over work because work might not always be there, but the people you have in your life will be. And I think that's more important than a little assignment about space.
Yeah. Well, not the space assignments. I like those. But yes, I see your point. And it's really cool to see people kind of realize some people don't, right? Some people kind of keep that like toxic grind set like mentality where it's like hustle and bustle, like, you know, you got to keep going for it. Like, if you're not making money, you're wasting your time type vibes. And I know a lot of those people. And like, they claim they're happy, but their entire life is a 9 to 5, come home, eat, sleep, do it again. Weekends are for chores and bills.
Exhausting.
And it's awful, dude. Whenever you work like that, you realize how much you're missing out. Like, there were days when I would, like, not even see, like, when I was at home, of course, when I would not even see, like, my parents for more than just, like, in the morning when we're all getting ready, leave, and then come back, like, hey, I'm home. Did you eat? Yeah, sick. Good night. And that was it. And that's like me still like living at home during the breaks, right? I'm supposed to be at home from school, like enjoying like the fact that I'm still in the position, like you said, where you have like your little summer break. Okay, go rest up. And it's like after this, I'm gonna get a real job. I'm gonna move out. I'm gonna go do something else. Like we're all gonna go our separate ways because, like, you know, my parents have stuff they want to do too. They're like here, of
Right.
course, to take care of Charlotte and I. Charlotte's my sister, who you might recognize if you're a long-time listener of the show. Anyway, like they're here to take care of us, of course, but like they want to get back to their lives too, and I don't blame them because I'm very much of the mentality that's like kids are a lot of work. They take your money and your time, and it's like you got to wait on them. And it's like sure, fine, you do it because you love them, whatever. But at the same time, it's like we're all gonna go somewhere else, and like the way my family structure is, we're all like very like big dream ambitious type people where it's like we're like, yo, you know what'd be really cool? Moving halfway around the world. Yeah. I think I'm gonna do it. Sick, very cool. Good luck. Don't forget to write. And that's I'm pretty sure what I will at some point do. Maybe not next year, not in 5 years, maybe in 10 years, but like that is eventually what I'm gonna do. And so it's so weird to get caught up in that cycle and to know people that think that that's okay. Like, bro, go eat a strawberry out of your own garden.
And just vibe. So whenever I lose motivation to do homework, I watch those study YouTube videos of like those people who will like study for 15 hours straight or whatever. And I'm like, I commend you for doing that. I wish I had the kind of mentality to do that stuff. But I'm also like, I just found out I'm graduating a whole year earlier than all of my other friends. I graduate in a year from now. I have to have a big girl job in a year from now. And I'm like, I can't do stupid stuff then So yeah, I haven't read half of my textbooks for my classes that I'm taking right now. But I'm like, why am I even gonna need them? Because college is kind of a scam, but here we are. But I'm like, I don't understand how people can dedicate so much of their time to that when you're going to have to learn about it anyways. The internet exists. We can Google anything that we need right now. But it's just not worth it because people aren't around. They either die or they live your life, which is okay. Life happens. But it's also like you need to appreciate them while they're here, and you can't do that if you are caught up in what could be instead of what's happening now.
Yeah, exactly. And at some point, you eventually do realize that it's worth doing things more for the experience rather than for any sort of like productive outcome. Yeah, the experience rather than the outcome. Like you did it, you lived it, you survived it. Very cool. On to the next one, right?
And I have anxiety, my best friend does too. And the most stupid thing that got us over it was like, you can worry about things as much as you want. You can worry about your future career, how you're going to make ends meet, whatever. But in the end, you're going to have to do it no matter what. So instead of worrying about it, you might as well do it. You might as well just figure it out then and live your life after that. Because worrying about it isn't going to make anything actually happen.
Exactly. In the wise words of Daniel Handler, aka Lemony Snicket, who to this day is my favorite author, do the scary thing first, get scared later. Easier said than done, but literally once you learn to take that leap, just do it. Also, to quote Shia LaBeouf, you know that meme where it's Bart Simpson and he's like, I have 8 cool phrases. Everything that I say is probably a reference to something, but alas, I digress. Mack, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Do you have any final closing remarks, statements, etc.?
Do it for the bees and do it for yourself. That's all I gotta say.
Do it for the bees and do it for yourself. You heard it here first. I would say do it for the Vine, but rip Vine, TikTok? I don't know. Do it for the bees and do it for yourself.